My name is Cash Radcliffe. I'm 34, and for most of my life I've been the kind of quiet, conflict-avoidant man people assume they can walk over. My parents did, my older brothers did, and apparently, so did my wife. I make good money as a systems architect, own a house I rebuilt from the studs up, and yet somehow I've always felt like the outsider in my own life, the one everyone expects to stay silent and pay the bill. Maybe that's why it took me too long to notice the shift, the secret phone calls, the missing documents, the way Raven stopped looking at me and started looking through me. I should have trusted that sinking feeling in my gut, the one whispering that something was very wrong, long before my security app proved it. Because the night I watched her unlock my front door and start moving her family into my house was the night I realized I wasn't just being ignored, I was being erased. And trust me, that was only the first sign that my life was about to detonate. It started with a blink. Red motion alert on my phone. Garage, movement detected, 7:14 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I was sitting at a conference table in New Orleans, mid-presentation, while my life 2,600 miles away fractured into pieces I hadn't seen coming. I tapped the notification out of habit, expecting FedEx. Instead, the frame shook. Then cleared. 3 people. Familiar silhouettes. Raven. Her brother Derek, in that leather jacket he never takes off. And her mother, Eleanor, dragging a rolling suitcase like it belonged there. Raven looked straight at the camera. Smiled. Then said it, like a blade wrapped in silk. He won't fight it. He never does. The camera panned as Derek pointed at the west wall. We knock this down, get more natural light in. Paint the brick white. It's better for the aesthetic. Eleanor's voice floated in, casual. Cashin will adjust. Once everything's in, there's no going back. I didn't hear the rest. Blood throbbed in my ears like a ticking clock. The room around me blurred. The conference, the projection screen, the applause at the end of the demo, I wasn't there anymore. I was back in Seattle, in the house I'd designed, paid for, fought to keep after the recession. The house they were dividing up like I was already dead. I checked the front door feed. Same thing. Them walking in with keys. Keys I didn't give them. Every room had someone in it. Eleanor was in my kitchen. Derek had opened the liquor cabinet. Raven was already pulling pillows off my bed. I closed the app. Opened it again. Still real. No texts. No missed calls. Just intrusion, documented in 1080p. There's a moment when betrayal shifts from emotional to strategic. Mine came somewhere between Eleanor placing a vase on my dining table and Derek pouring himself a glass of my scotch. I didn't call Raven. Didn't scream. Didn't curse. I booked the earliest one-way flight out of Louis Armstrong International. No checked luggage. I wasn't flying home. I was flying into enemy territory. 37 minutes later, in the terminal bathroom, I opened my private cloud vault. Pulled a document folder labeled Contingency R. Inside? Everything. Bank transfers Raven had asked for under false pretenses. A shared debit card she claimed was for emergencies that routed into her mother's account. And a scanned copy of a purchase agreement, my house listed under a family trust. A trust one never signed. A trust she had no legal right to touch. Still there it was. My signature. Almost perfect. Just enough jaggedness on the R to expose the forgery. I remembered what an old friend once told me. People don't try to destroy you in one move. They bleed you. Quiet. Systematic. This wasn't just betrayal. It was an operation. The plane took off into the storm. I didn't sleep. Didn't blink. I spent the entire flight building a timeline, correlating transactions, logging timestamps. If they wanted to steal my life, they should have deleted the digital footprints first. But they didn't. They never expected me to come back early. They didn't expect me to come back at all. I arrived in Seattle at 2:18 a.m. By 2:47, I was at the end of my own driveway. House lights still on. Camera feed alive. Inside, laughter. My laughter, once. Now a weapon they'd sharpened against me. I sat in the dark, engine off, heart like a drum solo. And I waited. Because I wasn't going home to ask questions. I was going home to end the game they didn't know I already won. The lights in the hallway were still on. So was the bedroom, kitchen, office. Someone had turned on the gas fireplace in the living room. It flickered like a light trying too hard to feel real. I didn't use the front door. I circled around the side gate, slipped through the side entry like a thief in my own life. The handle was greasy. Derek's fingerprints were probably still on it. Inside, I moved like I'd rehearsed it. Slow, quiet, decisive. Shoes off. Gloves on. Phone recording. I wasn't paranoid. I was documenting a crime scene. One room at a time. The coat rack had Raven's pink windbreaker, one she hadn't worn in years. The hallway table had Eleanor's clutch, wide open, keys dangling from the side. Her inhaler sat next to a bottle of prescription painkillers. They weren't visiting. They were nesting. I stepped into the kitchen. The air smelled like citrus disinfectant and lavender. Fake clean. Like they were scrubbing away guilt, not dirt. The trash bin was full. Eggshells, empty oat milk cartons, a Safeway rotisserie chicken bag. 3 toothbrushes in the upstairs bathroom. One of them wasn't mine. People don't replace you overnight, I whispered to myself. They do it in layers. Quietly. One drawer at a time. The worst part? None of them thought I'd be back. That was the only explanation. You don't set a trap when you think your prey's already dead. 2:59 a.m. I slipped into the garage. Pulled down the cord to manually disable the automatic opener. No sounds. No lights. I lifted the false panel under the third shelf. A black metal case. Inside, 2 terabyte drives, encrypted. Untouched. I plugged one into the emergency laptop I kept in the safe. Fingers moved on muscle memory. Password. Vault key. Secondary encryption bypass. Click. Folder opened, contingency, R, phase 2. Inside were scans of legal documents. Bank statements. Metadata trails. Then I found it. A PDF labeled lease agreement, joint tenancy. I opened it. Froze. My name and Raven's. And Eleanor's. All 3 listed as co-tenants of this property. My signature. Except it wasn't mine. The C was just a little too curved. The A had no tail. A forgery. But a damn good one. Under Washington law, if 3 names are listed under a joint tenancy agreement with right of survivorship, one death hands over full control. I was legally being fated out of my own property. Derek's voice echoed in my head from the video. Once the LLC is formed, he won't have a say. I took photos. Uploaded them into a secure legal Dropbox I shared with Mara Kingsley. Then I checked the house security feed. New motion. Living room. I tapped in. Raven stood alone. Phone to her ear. Her voice was calm. Soft. Dangerously composed. Tomorrow morning, he's boarding at 7:45 a.m., Delta 1321, she said. Pause. No, he doesn't know yet. We're covered. Pause. Right. I'll tell Derek to shred the paper copies. And Mom's getting the notary by Friday. She hung up. My ears rang. My boarding pass said 7:45 a.m. The return leg I had just canceled 5 hours ago. They had access to my itinerary. Real time. I changed the password to my airline account last week. But I never changed the recovery email. Her email. I stared at the wall. Time was running out. Then, footsteps. Down the hallway. Coming toward the garage. I yanked the drive from the laptop and dove behind the workbench. The door creaked open. Eleanor's silhouette. Backlit. Holding a glass of water. She stood still. Listening. Then muttered, "Thought I heard something." She turned off the garage light and left. At 4:12 a.m., I called Mara. Whispered. "I need you to send out a fake foreclosure notice. Make it look urgent. Send it to the house." Mara didn't ask questions. That's why I trusted her. Next, I scheduled a live stream on my backup platform. Private for now. Set to go public in 48 hours if I didn't manually stop it. It would include everything. Every document. Every recording. There was one file left to open. A USB stick Derek had left plugged into the family iMac. I scanned its contents. Folder name, Plan B, finalized. Inside? A PDF with a contract to sell the house to a shell company in Arizona. Price, $0. Transfer under debt settlement. And the craziest part? It was dated 2 days from now. Signed by me. Fake, of course. The only thing real was the intent. They weren't stealing my house. They were laundering my identity. And if I hadn't caught it, I wouldn't just be broke, I'd be liable for federal wire fraud. I looked around the garage one last time. Then at the upstairs window, where I could see Derek's silhouette watching the driveway. He was holding something metallic. Maybe a flashlight. Maybe not. They were awake. They were watching. They were ready. They just didn't know I was, too. They were building a future on my corpse, and I was done playing dead. The next morning, I walked into my own kitchen like I was entering enemy territory. Raven was plating eggs. Calm. Focused. Like the night before hadn't happened. "Morning," she said, voice light. "You're early." I watched her hands. No tremble. No flinch. She knew. I leaned against the counter. "You moved your family in without asking. You forged documents. Who's the corpse the mortgage is hiding?" The spatula paused midair. Her eyes met mine. She smiled. Not warm. Performative. The way a host smiles at a guest who's overstayed. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said. "You're tired. Paranoid. You've been overworking." I chuckled once. Dry. They always say the person seeing the fire is crazy, not the one holding the match. Cut. The chair behind me shifted. Derek walked in, barefoot, hair wet from a shower he didn't pay for. "Bro," he said, grinning. "Thought you weren't back till tomorrow. Gave us a little scare." I looked at him. No one ever questions the squatter who knows the alarm code. He froze. Just a beat. Then shrugged. Eleanor entered next. Full robe, coffee in hand. As if this was her retirement condo in Florida. "Cashin," she said, full concern coding every syllable. "You look pale. You should sit down." "No," I said. "You should pack." Silence. Sharp. Like the moment before a string snaps. Then. Raven said, "You're acting unstable. Maybe we need to talk about options." She reached for her phone. I slapped a thumb drive onto the counter. Audio started playing through the Bluetooth speaker I'd left connected. Derek's voice. "Once the LLC is formed, he won't have a say." Raven's voice. He'll cave like he always does. Eleanor. Make sure the notary comes before Friday. Cut. Derek lunged. Not at me. At the counter. For the drive. I got there first. Pushed him off. His elbow slammed into the edge of the island. He howled. Touch me again, I said low, and you'll be explaining that bruise in court. Raven stepped between us. Her tone shifted. You're blowing this out of proportion. That was just brainstorming. A contingency if we all live together. You forged my signature on a lease, I said. And this, I tapped the file, proves intent. You can't prove anything, Eleanor snapped. I can prove enough. I pulled my phone. Live stream screen. Still running. Views, 11,487. Live chat scrolling. Smile. We're already live, I said. Cut. The room shifted. Colors drained. Raven's hands twitched. The world was watching. I turned the camera toward them. Derek stepped back. Raven's voice, brittle now. Cass, stop. We can still fix this. You don't fix a fire with gasoline, I said. You don't rebuild trust on ashes. Another voice piped in from the hallway. Hey. You might want to see this. Eleanor's voice cracked. Who the hell? Avery Murdoch. My neighbor. Holding her phone up. She walked into the kitchen like a war correspondent with breaking news. I saw your stream, she said, eyes wide. But I think you should see this. She turned the screen. It was a thread. A forum post. Titled, Is Raven V legally married? Someone check Arizona records. A blurry photo. Raven. In Phoenix. Wearing white. Next to a man who wasn't me. The date, 6 years ago. Raven's mouth parted. No words came out. Derek looked at her. Then back at me. You said it was annulled, he muttered. She said nothing. He stepped away from her. Eleanor stared. No. That's not even. Her voice collapsed. The live stream viewers climbed. 17,000 now. I leaned into the mic. You lied about everything. You lied about being my wife. Raven's lips trembled. Still no denial. Cut. I stepped back. The camera framed them all. Raven. Frozen. Derek. Pale. Eleanor. Visibly shaking. Outside, sirens. Far off. Coming closer. I whispered, just loud enough for the mic to catch. And that was the part they forgot. I never needed a lawyer, I needed an audience. They say when the truth comes out, it sets you free. That's a lie. Truth is gasoline. And in my house, someone had already lit the match. The police arrived just before 9 a.m. 2 cruisers. 1 unmarked. Plainclothes stepped out first, Detective Nora Klein. Sharp eyes. No expression. Cash and Radcliffe, she asked, badge flashed. Yes, I said. You're here for the live stream? She didn't blink. No. I'm here because your wife filed a harassment complaint. The word hit like cold steel. She's not my wife, I said. And I have proof she never was. Nora didn't respond. She turned to Raven, who stood behind the officers like a perfect victim. Makeup pale. Voice cracking. He came back early. Started yelling. He's unstable, she whispered, just loud enough for the audio recorder clipped to Nora's belt. I laughed once. Sharp. Unstable people don't carry notarized counterclaims. I handed her a file folder. Inside, timestamps, the fake lease, marriage records from Phoenix, the shell company documents. Nora skimmed. Stiffened. "Where did you get this?" she asked. "Personal archives," I said. "And from a USB Derek forgot to wipe. Rookie mistake." Raven's eyes flickered. "Cut." The other officer pulled me aside. "You've got surveillance, evidence, and a paper trail, Mr. Radcliffe. But the complaint she filed is active. Until we confirm your claim, we're requesting that you leave the premises." "She's squatting," I hissed. "Possession is 9/10 of the law," he said. "Especially when a lease, fake or not, is in play." I stepped back. Breath short. Pulse louder than traffic. "Justice is patient," I murmured. "But sometimes she arrives too late." I didn't go far. I drove 2 blocks. Parked in front of a coffee shop. Inside, the air smelled like burnt espresso and guilt. I opened my laptop. Logged into the legal stream. 86,000 views and counting. My inbox had exploded. Tips. Anonymous comments. One stood out. From Firebird302@protonmail.com. Subject: "She's done this before." Attached: a folder. Zip file. Password protected. I pinged Mara. Sent her the file. Within minutes, she called. "Cass," she said, voice tight. "You need to see this." I opened the link. Inside were 3 case summaries. Different states. Similar names. R. Valles. R. Varnum. R.V. Each case involved real estate fraud, identity laundering, and forged marital documents. One had ended in arson. Another in a missing person investigation. My chest froze. "Are you telling me she's done this before?" Mara's silence said more than yes. "She's not Raven," I whispered. "She never was." Cut to my lawyer's office. Mara stood by the window, pacing. "I ran her prints through my private contact at AMC," she said. "The alias is part of a flagged profile. Not prosecuted yet, but under review. She's changed names 5 times in 7 years. And the trust document? Stolen notary stamp. Witness forged. Derek's name appears on another property scam in New Mexico. Same shell company. How fast can we move?" I asked. Mara nodded. "I'm filing a mandatory fraud report to the Washington Attorney General's office today. And a motion for emergency injunction." "But," Cass, she hesitated. "What?" She handed me another document. A signed quitclaim deed. Your name. Her fake name. And someone else's signature. My brother. Nolan. I stared. "It's not possible," I said. "Did he ever have access to your safe?" Mara asked. "When we were kids," I said. "Maybe once." I replayed everything. Nolan had visited 6 months ago. Stayed 3 nights. I was out for most of it. He had helped clean up my office. Said he'd tossed some old files. It wasn't just a family betrayal. It was engineered. Twist the bloodline. Break the alibi. Trust dies quietly, I muttered. You don't hear the crack. Just the silence afterward. Cut. I returned to the house at dusk. Watched from across the street. Inside, Raven was on her phone. Not pacing. Commanding. Not scared. Calculating. Then, movement. Basement window. Flicker of a flashlight. Someone was down there. I texted Avery. Check your camera. South side. Now. Seconds later, she called. There's a guy in your basement. Looks like Nolan. My lungs went still. Raven's not the only one playing a long game. Maybe she was never the boss. Just a bait. I stared at the house. Then down at the USB in my hand. It wasn't just my life on the line anymore. This wasn't theft. It was a network. Nolan in my basement. That sentence alone rewired everything I thought I understood. Raven and her family had ambition. But Nolan? He had motive. He always did. The kind of brother who smiled while pocketing your wallet, then helped you look for it. I stepped out of the car and walked toward the house. Slow. Controlled. The night air was damp, cold, metallic on my tongue. The kind of air that warns storms aren't coming, they're already here. Avery whispered through the phone, "He's pacing. Looks like he's waiting for a call." Good. So was I. I slipped down the side yard, keeping low. The basement window glowed faintly. I crouched, listening. Nolan's voice. Sharp. Tense. "I told you he wouldn't die on the flight," he hissed. "He changed it last minute." Yes, she screwed up. My stomach tightened. Someone on the other end mumbled. Couldn't hear who. "Nolan, no, I didn't sign anything recently." She forged it. That was the plan. We transfer the deed, sell it under the LLC, split the payout. No, I don't care what she told you. She lies. Split the payout. So this wasn't loyalty. It was profit. Cut. He turned, boots scraping concrete. He grabbed a duffel bag. Heavy. Metal clink inside. Weapons? Tools? Documents? Didn't matter. I needed eyes on it. I edged closer to the window. A broken weed brushed my wrist. My heart stuttered. The window pane shifted. Nolan froze. He looked straight at me. "Cass," he said softly. Shit. I ducked just as he lunged. The window shattered outward, glass spraying the yard. I rolled back, gravel cutting my palms. Nolan climbed through the frame, swinging the duffel over his shoulder. "Why'd you come back early, little brother?" he asked. "You were supposed to be miles away." "Yeah," I said, standing. That's what she thought. His eyes narrowed. "She," he echoed. "You still think Raven's in charge?" Cut. He pulled something from the duffel. Not a gun. A stack of papers. He threw them at my feet. Quitclaim deeds. Credit applications. Debt settlements. All forged. All dated the same month Nolan visited. "You were easy, Cass," he said. "Always were. Quiet, compliant. The family doormat. Do you know what someone once told me? If a man doesn't guard his life, someone else will take it for him." Turns out, he was right. He moved closer. "You never guarded anything." My breath tightened. But not from fear. From clarity. I stepped forward. "Then why hide in the basement? Why not sign everything yourself?" He smirked. "Because I needed a scapegoat. And she needed a husband. Our goals aligned. Raven. Nolan. A partnership. Not romantic. Strategic. Two parasites sharing a host." Cut. Suddenly, headlights washed over us. My pulse jumped. Mara's SUV screeched to a stop. She stepped out, hair wind-whipped, badge from her legal firm clipped to her blazer. "Cass," she called. "We have a problem." Nolan slipped back toward the window, but she blocked his path. "Move," he growled. "No," she said. Calm. Dead calm. "The Attorney General's investigator needs a statement from you." Not her. Not him. You. I blinked. What investigator? Before she could answer, a man stepped out of the SUV's passenger side. Gray coat. Stiff posture. Cold eyes. Mr. Radcliffe, he said. I'm Agent Harper with the AMC's Fraud and Identity Division. You filed a mandatory report through your counsel earlier today. We need clarification. Nolan stiffened. He knew what AMC meant. Harper continued, your name is linked to multiple attempted property transfers. Some tied to a suspect operating under various aliases. His gaze slid to Nolan. Is this your brother? Nolan's jaw clenched. He stepped back. Hands curling. I'm done talking, he muttered. He bolted. Cut. I ran after him. Harper followed. Mara shouted for backup. Nolan sprinted toward the street. Fast. Too fast. But adrenaline burned through my legs. I closed the gap. Grabbed his jacket. He twisted, throwing an elbow into my ribs. Pain shot bright. I didn't let go. We slammed into a parked car. Alarm blaring. Light flashing in violent bursts. Stop! I yelled. Nolan, stop. He shoved me back, wild. No. You don't get to win. Not you. The words weren't rage, they were panic. Fear of losing the life he tried to steal. Harper tackled him from the side. Nolan went down hard, gravel tearing his palms. Mara ran up, breathless. It's over, Nolan, she said. There's enough evidence to charge you for 6 felonies. And that's before Raven folds. He laughed. Mad. Hollow. Raven? Fold? She'll burn this whole block down before she talks. He spat blood onto the street. You think I'm the threat, he said, eyes wild. She's the one you should be afraid of. Cut. A siren wailed in the distance. Louder. Closer. I looked back at my house. The living room lights flickered. Then went black. A silhouette moved behind the curtains. Not Raven. Not Derek. Someone else. Watching. Waiting. And when the shadow leaned forward, just enough to catch the streetlight, I realized Nolan wasn't warning me out of guilt. He was warning me out of survival. Because the real person running this wasn't him. Wasn't Raven. There was someone above them. Someone I hadn't even met yet. And they were already inside my home. The lights flickered once. Then darkness swallowed the house whole. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Behind the curtain, that figure it hadn't flinched. Hadn't run. They were waiting for me. I stepped forward, heart pounding against bone. The front door creaked open with a whisper, like the house itself didn't want to be heard. Inside, the silence was brutal. The living room was lit only by moonlight slicing through blinds. Dust hung in the air like suspended breath. The couch had been moved. The rug lifted. A trail of muddy footprints, bare, narrow, led toward the hallway. I followed. Not fast. Not slow. Just enough to feel the tension pull taut. Then, click. A lamp turned on. Soft yellow glow. Revealing. Her. Eleanor. Raven's aunt. The one who never left Atlanta. The one who was too sick to travel. She sat in my reading chair, legs crossed, a teacup in one hand like she'd lived here all her life. You made it back in time, she said. Calm. Pleased. I didn't speak. She gestured around. Nice house. Old bones. Good secrets. Why are you here? My voice cracked. Too much adrenaline. She smiled faintly. Because I built this game. You just didn't know you were playing. Cut. Behind her, the safe. Open. Empty. I clenched my fists. You took the documents. No, she said. I gave them back. You'll find them in your freezer. Wrapped in foil. Under the peas. I blinked. What? People trust cold storage more than vaults. It's human instinct. If it's next to food, it must be safe. She sipped. But you're not here for lessons. No. I was here for answers. Why? Why orchestrate this? Why drag your niece into it? My brother? She laughed, but there was no joy in it. Because wealth isn't just money, Cassidy. It's control. And your family, her eyes narrowed. You were never meant to hold the pen. I stepped forward. So you used them. They volunteered, she said. Raven wanted a new life. Nolan wanted revenge. I gave them both. And what did you want? Her gaze sharpened. To destroy a name that erased me. Silence. Then it clicked. You're not just her aunt. You're my mother's half-sister. She smiled. Soft. Tragic. Your grandfather built his empire on silence. Affairs. Hidden children. When I showed up to claim my place, I was paid to disappear. I swallowed. And now you want your share. I wanted justice. Money's just the tool. Cut. I looked around. The house was still. The lie, exposed. The final layer peeled back. You're not getting away with this. She set the cup down. I already have, she said. But you, Cassidy, you still have a chance. What do you mean? She stood. Walked past me. Whispered like a ghost. Use the pain. Use the betrayal. Not to become them, but to outlive them. Then she was gone. Cut. Later, the house buzzed with movement. Cops. Investigators. AMC agents. Raven was arrested trying to board a flight in Charlotte. Fake passport. Cash strapped to her thighs. Nolan was charged with conspiracy, forgery, and wire fraud. He tried to claim coercion. The AMC had recordings. They weren't buying it. Eleanor? She vanished. No trace. Only the teacup remained. Cut. Weeks passed. The house was quiet again. Safe. I installed a new lock on the basement. Got a better lawyer. Transferred everything into a trust. No loopholes. No signatures unverified. Mara came by. She stood in the doorway, watching me replace the front doormat. You still don't lock that smile away, she said. I shrugged. Life tried. Didn't win. She handed me a folded piece of paper. A letter. Eleanor's handwriting. You were the last one I thought would fight back. That's what makes you dangerous. And valuable. Never forget, they chose power. You chose truth. That's why you'll survive. I folded it. Didn't say a word. She left. I stayed. Cut. Even now, sometimes I wake up at 3 a.m. Hear a creak. A whisper. A footstep. But the house is just a house again. It breathes. It stands. It remembers. And so do I. Not all traps are built with rope and nails. Some are made with silence. Patience. Knowing exactly when to speak. They tried to bury me under the name I was born with. But I rose using the one I built. Because in the end, they underestimated the quiet one. And that's always the last mistake they make.